Okay, so I was just reading through the different timeline of stuff that I recorded. There's a million things. Like we could be here for 1,000 uh, videos to talk about all the different things that took place and our time there. How we were worked half to death during Pride season, like Pride Week, and how he tried to make me come in even though I was like violently vomiting in my office after a long day of Pride stuff. From heat exhaustion and whatever, because it was that year that it was like ridiculously wildly hot for Pride. I think 2019, 20, yeah, I think 2019. And I was like vomiting and that I was gonna have to go to the hospital, but he still made me continue to work. There were times that, Sterling had approved overtime on her card that he then denied ever giving her. And so we had to take it off. There were threatening voicemails to Braden, threatening him termination and whatever else if he didn't come in even though he was sick. Just ongoing harassment, and it was just the definition of a hostile work environment is what it was. On top of the racism and transphobia and whatever else we experienced. But why are we talking about this now, right? Okay, well, to bring it all home, it's 4 years. Tomorrow, today, depending on when you see this, that the agency shuttered and we lost our jobs. We went back and forth for a long time after the agency closed, just in shock and bewildered and not understanding what happened. I think that we really still hoped the agency was going to reopen. And so we kind of were just holding our breath. Like we felt like it couldn't end like this. Like we felt like we were going to get another chance. There was a really expectation for a lot of people in the community that I was going to get the opportunity to lead the agency, because not for nothing, when I was brought in, I was told when I was offered the position that Jeff wanted to just get us back on an even footing financially, and then I would be made the executive director of the agency. He wasn't trying to be there for long. That's not what he wanted. It should be a black woman, a black queer woman, or a trans person that was in charge. And that's why he had sought me out and wanted me to come and brought me into the agency, because that's what he wanted for the agency. My friend Adrienne Elam really pushed me to take the position because it made sense for us to have representation there after we had spent those years building Black Pride, and that we could really change things. And so I asked them to match my salary from the job that I had in order to come over, and they did. And the agency was going to be mine. So I think that we all believed other things were going to happen. At that point, nobody knew the pandemic was going to go on for so long. But we really didn't think it was just going to shut down and that was going to be the end of it. But it was. And so it took us a long time to decide that we should sue, and took another long time to find an attorney that would take our case, because we all were in such poor financial situations with no job and struggling to either live on unemployment or even get unemployment. There was no way that we could pay a lawyer unless it was a contingent on us winning a lawsuit, which is really difficult to find, believe it or not, to get somebody to do. Unless it's like a simple slip and fall kind of case where you're probably going to get, $1 million from Wegmans and then they take their cut or whatever. So eventually, one of the staff found a lawyer that would take our case, and so we started this lawsuit. But that was almost 4 years ago, and this has gone on and on since then. Andrew Moran, who now runs Rainbow Union, which is Out Alliance, is really making this huge push in the community to bring the agency back, to get people to donate money, to go back to making Out Alliance great again. Except the thing about it is, when Out Alliance fell silent, when we all lost our jobs, when we were in the middle of a pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement was taking hold, and we were out in the street protesting for Black folks and for queer folks and for intersectional folks, Out Alliance fell silent. And a lot of agencies came forward to fill those gaps, to feed people, to provide grocery money, to stop people from not being housed, to provide services. Rochester LGBTQ plus Together, NGMT, Next Generation Men in Transition, WAVE, a lot of the mutual aid groups, Dina and hers, like they stepped up to close the gap that Out Alliance left open for years. And although This is probably 2 sets of boards removed, and this is different people. They're not behaving like a different agency. They are still not willing to compensate us for any of the things that we went through. We have been represented by attorneys that I think lost interest because they found out that that Outer Alliance didn't carry insurance at the time they were working there that would cover this lawsuit. And Outer Alliance is saying that there's no money. Now, what's interesting is Outer Alliance rebranded to Rainbow Union in July of last year, in July of 2023. That's what they publicly said. Interestingly, they didn't actually file like DBA paperwork to be known as a different agency until February of 2024. So for all those months when they were collecting United Way funds and anything else, I don't know where that money went. Maybe it all was above board, even though I don't understand why there was such a gap. That DBA that was filed was only in Andrew Moran's name. It didn't change the name of the actual agency. He just like filed for the name and held it. So I don't know if there's hidden money. I don't know. But what I know is they say that there is no money and there was no insurance, and so they can't do anything for us. Initially, they offered us an apology, a non-monetary settlement, and now they're offering us nothing. They've been trying to get the case thrown out for years. It's held on strugglingly. But I think it's gotten to the point for all of us that it's more important that our story gets out and that people understand why it's so important not to throw your money in the direction of these people, that although they are different people than the people that originally committed these acts, they are still perpetrating the same thing. And they are not being honest with the community about who they are or what happened, or the fact that they're trying to build all these things and do all these things when they still haven't acknowledged really openly like what was said and what was done to us. They haven't tried to give us back the money that we're owed. Like, if you want to debate about what a hostile work environment is, fine, but in terms of like unpaid wages and overtime and severance, those are things that are owed to us, that aren't based on opinion. It's funny because Andrew Moran, who is now the president, who is going around all over the place to encourage people to give money to the Outer Alliance to try to bring back the Empty Closet, which I used to be the editor of, and to keep hope alive and keep the Outer Alliance alive, he himself made a Facebook post after all this happened on June 15, 2020. And it said, an open letter to the Outer Alliance Board of Directors. The United Way of Greater Rochester's Pride Leadership Development Program class of 2019 stands in solidarity with the recently laid off staff members of the Outer Alliance. We cannot express enough thanks for the work that they have done to make the organization a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse space. We are angry that these members of our community have lost their livelihoods and that the Outer Alliance doors have been shuttered. We are saddened at the abuse they have faced from their previous executive director and upset that they were blindsided by their terminations. He goes on to say, ironically, that the whole board needs to be restructured and the agency needs to be restructured and rebuilt and whatever. And I guess that's what he was setting out to do at the time, and that is what he is attempting to do now. But please don't ever get confused that the sins of the past have been shaken from this place that won't even acknowledge what they really did to the people that put blood, sweat, and tears into trying to keep that place alive. It's not right and it's not fair. And it's been 4 years and we've never told our story. So whether we win a dime or walk away with nothing, I'm not going to allow myself or my staff to be talked down about, to be not acknowledged, to have our pain not count, to the things that happen to us not matter, and just be swept under the carpet so they can reopen and, have the Rainbow Library again, the Lavender Library again, and a fake gallery space and all these programs. Like, they were planning trans programming last year on top of the programming that Britt Harders had been doing for visibility, Trans Day visibility for years. Like, that shows that they're not that different. And I want you to remember that every time you even think to send them some money. Because That's who they are.